I'm Harley Van Henning, aka Gnarly Harley, and this is a Tom Rowland Podcast.
Gnarly Harley, what's happening, man?
What's up, Tom? How's it going, man?
Going great. I'm glad to have you on here, man. I'm a fan of your work.
Thanks a lot. Fan of Tom Rowland.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So,
Yeah.
tell me about getting into art. Like you sent me your bio. It sounded like your mom was
Mhm.
into art, and you started kind of thinking about art at a young age, but then maybe got um, down a different road for a bit. What's your story with art?
So my mother, she's originally from London and went to art school. And the first 4 years of her art college, she went to the Brighton School of Art, and then did her graduate schooling at the Royal Academy in Central London. So my mother's had a lot of I guess, formal art training
Hmm.
and education in the fine arts. So with realism, I mean, she can paint anything that's like a picture that's very lifelike, hyperrealism, you'd say. Everything from she's painted buildings to all the very meticulous bricks
Really?
to seascapes, portraits, um, birds, fish, creatures. So,
Has she always made her living as an artist?
so my mother's like I guess I describe it as like a musician that is sort of in a closet that, is like, ooh, kind of a little bit, I guess, maybe shy to share her work, but yet it's extraordinary. It's so good. And it's like, oh, the world needs to see this. We need to get this out there.
That's
So,
so common. That's so common with artists. Like I think that's why so many artists are discovered after they're gone. Like they might die and then someone discovers this entire room full of their art and they bring it out and it's amazing and everyone
mhm.
appreciates it, but at the time that artist was I mean, why is that with artists that people are afraid to show their work, or like what you're describing with your mom? What do you think's going on there that
I think it has to do with like personally, because art is so not only is it like an intimate thing. Not It's not only just like yourself and your soul and all that. So it can be very private for someone because it's not they're creating for themselves and not for the world,
yeah.
and it's just for them. And for some people, that's just so personal that they don't want to just share that with anyone. And it's kind of like revealing yourself to the world. And I guess it's kind of like some people can get up and speak in front of others and they have that confidence to do that and just say, "Oh, here I am." And then there's other people that are very like, "Oh, well, I don't want everyone to know me or see me and see my work and and the vulnerability that's with
Yeah,
it." So,
I think it's the same
uh,
probably with writing too. Like you would have people
yeah.
that would write and it's almost like just here's my journal or here's my diary, just read it, like I don't know that a
Hmm.
lot of people are ready to do that, but other people are. But it's a funny thing with, I mean, it's such a common thing with artists that they're hesitant to share what the rest of the world looks at as amazing. And
Hmm.
and it's almost like the better that it is, the more hesitant a certain artist is to share it sometimes.
Well, I think that taps into that soul where it's people are expressing themselves and are putting all that energy and the passion, and it's just it's not it's not for commerce or money or
Mhm.
to for people to purchase. They have to express themselves because there's something in there that has to get out, and it has to go through a channel, whether that's the writing, photography, painting, or dancing. There's so many different creative outlets and expressions with humans. And I think that's just because I hear a lot of people like, "Oh, I wish I had, the creative side or something like that." And it's like, well, we all have it because we're all connected to God, spirit, and it's just one of those things like the creator. You look around in your daily life and everything that you're surrounded by, the car that you're driving in, the buildings, that someone visualized that and created that. So there's creation around us every day in all different shapes and forms.
Yeah. And people have to be comfortable getting that out for it to for the rest of the world to experience it. It's really with your mom. What do you think? I mean, that's obviously her creative outlet. Is her art,
Hmm.
and it's not necessarily something that she has tried to make money on, or
She's sold work, and it's like my mother. She's been an amazing mother. So she's been there for my father, and um, so she hasn't had to work because he did well enough to support her and support me growing up and everything. And my parents always thought it was important to have someone at home when I came home from school, to
hmm
talk to
yep.
and all that. Um, so that was something that they thought was important and that they wanted to do. And my mother's always painted in her free time. She's painted for, done some little commissions for friends or different things like that. But then she's just kind of painted and created whatever's inspired her. And we've always kind of encouraged her and be like, oh, we need to get your work out there and sell it. But also my mother, she's, with the hyper realism, she's so meticulous with like detail, and she also paints with oil, so things take a lot longer where she doesn't produce work super fast. And so to create like a big body of work to show would take her a bit of time. But then also, I think her, with the family and, taking care of us and all that, that's definitely, being a full-time artist requires a lot of time. Um,
hmm
so she's dedicate herself to us and family. And we've talked about doing a show together, because I want to get her work out there. I'm like, hey, mom, look, I get everything from you, and your education and what you know about art, and so what I've learned and what you've taught me and what I've been exposed to, uh, that needs to be out there. Um, and it needs to be out there for people to be inspired by, but also like, she's an amazing artist. So I want to share her with the world because she has a wealth of knowledge, and her work's amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that'll be cool. I'm sure that you're going to be able to put together some sort of show as long as she's willing.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of the thing. Make sure that she's willing. But how did she kind of inspire you and encourage you with your own art? When did that start?
So when I was growing up, my parents would take me to art galleries, art festivals, and my mother would paint regularly. She'd have like her own little kind of art room. So friends would come over, and I've just always been around it. And they've always kind of exposed me to artwork. And then I took art classes through middle school, through high school, but also too, looking back to when I was younger, I naturally took to art without any kind of introduction really. Because I remember in kindergarten, other kids would be playing with toys, whatever, and I'd have crayons and paper and be drawing. Um, and so that was just something I enjoyed early on. I remember, without anyone saying, "Oh, do you want to draw?" It was just, "Oh, I want to do this."
Hmm.
So I think it's always been there. Um, and then doing the art classes through middle school, through high school, um, I really enjoyed it. And then when it came to later on deciding whether to pursue like an art career or go to art college, uh, that's kind of where I hit crossroads, because I always looked at art where it was an expression, something I wanted to enjoy and appreciate, and I never wanted it. And I thought about the whole like, well, what is art like being an artist? Is does the money and it being a job, does that ruin it? And so that was something that came to my mind at an early age. Is like I don't want artwork to ever be ruined by a job or money, and I always want to enjoy it. And at the time, my guidance counselor told me, well, artists don't really make money, so that's something to consider going to college. And I ended up getting a PR degree, which I chose that because with PR marketing, I could stay in the surf industry because I love surfing, or I could stay in any kind of industry that I was passionate about and enjoyed, but yet I could still be creative and have that creative outlet through writing or the marketing side of stuff, which I enjoy doing. So, and then kind
That's
of funny
gotta help
how,
with your art, right? Like
oh,
marketing, I would think that that's another place that traditionally a lot of creative people are not great marketers, especially for themselves. And
mhm.
then that's a real um, interesting kind of combination is when you do have that and you are able to market your art or even feel comfortable about marketing your art. I mean, I think a lot of that could be just whether or not someone's comfortable doing it. How does that balance there of marketing and art fit in your life?
It's the art or the education I've gotten in college with PR and marketing has absolutely benefited me in so many different ways with um, getting yourself out there and knowing how to go and network, to talk to people, uh, the confidence to discuss and share your work and knowing how to get your work out there, whether that's social media channels, um, and just not being afraid of people. Because with PR is all about, you know, directly communication and being able to communicate with your audience and knowing who your audience is, knowing who your target audience is, um, and also being a professional. Because through college, I was part of the FPRA, the Florida Public Relations Association, the Advertising Federation, and in college we did ad campaigns, so I understood um, how to brand myself or how to tie in myself and create that, um, I guess, create myself as an artist and put myself out there and how to do that.
Right.
And I feel like with a lot of artists, um, they kind of they get all the art education, but then it's like the most important side is like the business side and the marketing and the PR and how and knowing how just to put yourself out there and have that confidence. Because there's a lot of artists I know and they're a bit introverted and kind of
Mhm.
private. And everyone's different. And so, but with any business, it's like you have to talk to people and communication is key and getting yourself out there. And as an artist, if people aren't seeing your work, then they're not buying it.
Right.
So, and I think the social media is great because it allows people to get out there without that might be a little like, ooh, you know, in
Posting posts
crowds.
and you just like post it and then you can just get out. Like people are looking at it and watching it, but you don't necessarily have to interact with them like you would at an art show or something like that on social media. A lot of the artists that I know that have been the most successful are exactly like what you said. They're kind of introverted. They're incredibly creative,
Hmm.
and they have, in several cases, have married someone who is a good marketer, and they form a team, right? Like here's the
Right.
artist and here's the marketer. And but if you can do that yourself, that's a pretty good combination, I would think, but a rare combination for creative types. And creative types, not just like art, like what you're doing, but photography, writing,
Hmm.
like all forms of art. I think that the people that are the best artists, for whatever reason, that's just the personality for most of the artists that are super creative are not super marketing creative,
Hmm.
right? Like, I don't know, it's a different. Where'd you go to college?
So I went to the University of West Florida in Pensacola.
Yeah.
And
And
so
you
that's
grew
where
up in Destin?
I did. Yeah, I was born and raised here.
Wow.
A lot of people move here because we're surrounded by the military. There's the Navy base, several Air Force bases. But I was born in Eglin Air Force Base, and my father was special ops
Really?
um, with the 20th, and so yeah, I'm
Great
born and
target
raised, grew up
fishing right
here.
out in front of Eglin Air Force Base, I think. I'm pretty sure I fished out there in front of that base.
Oh yeah, there's some great flats fishing there and grass beds and on the north side of the bay.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the tarpon roll through there. Um, yeah, that's cool. So your dad was career military?
Yes, he was. He retired from the Air Force, and now he's in Texas.
So
He's just
Air
kind of
Force Special Ops, what does that look like? Is that a PJ? What is that?
so he worked with the Pavlo threes, the 20th, and
Okay.
he was the flight engineer. And so with those helicopters, I guess they were vital as I guess going in, I guess before any kind of um, like with the Gulf War, they would go in first and kind of, if I understand this right, they'd go in first kind of with reconnaissance and would kind of infiltrate, and also too with rescue missions.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I think there was a pilot that they got shot down, and they went to rescue him, and then they had the Iraqis coming in that were shooting at him, and some A-10s came in and saved them.
Wow.
So yeah, wild stuff. But yeah, there's a big military community here.
Yeah, very big military community, and a lot of people that grow up on a base or have a parent that is career military end up moving around. But it sounds like you kind of were able to stay right in that area.
Yeah, yeah. Always stayed here, and my parents um, had moved back to the UK in 2008, and they were there for 8 years. And after college, I was going to move to San Diego for a marketing job, and then um, kind of going back into college, the college days. Towards the end of college, I started doing a podcast for tourism and travel here.
Really?
And so that was in 2006. So I was doing podcasts like way
Wow, in
a long time ago.
2006. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I did
That's
that for like 5 years. And the guy I was working with, I decided to uh, go my own independent path. And I was creating a lifestyle brand. And then I started experimenting with the art form of Gyotaku with creating shirts. And then I showed my mother what I was doing, and she was like, she always says, I don't say this, and that's slang for British, but she's like, screw the bloody t-shirts, do more of this. And so I started painting all the fish I could get my hands on, and then I kind of left the whole podcast and lifestyle brand, and I was like, I love art more than I love podcasting. So
interesting. So
yeah.
I was trying to work my way into that, but your art is basically, or the art that I've seen, you were showing me before, you're doing an album cover for Stick Figure or for their other band. What's it called?
K-Bong.
Okay, so K-Bong, that does not look like some of the other art that I've seen from you, which is the Japanese Gyotaku. Is that how you say it?
Yes, or it's pronounced Gyotaku, so
Gyotaku.
like the GY
Yeah. So I want
Gyotaku.
to talk
Yeah.
about that for sure. But
Yeah.
how do you? I mean, you said you were a surfer. You grew up in Destin.
hmm
Is that the tie to the ocean, or was it fishing, or just a tie to the ocean, or what? What was the inspiration with fish and getting into what you're doing today?
So I think it's one of those things like with parents, especially nowadays, parents are such a huge shaper in a child's life and your path and trajectory. And my parents were taking me to art galleries, exposing me to art festivals. That was like kind of the art thing. But then what tied me to the ocean was we would go to the beach every weekend. My dad loved surf fishing, pompano fishing. So we'd go out to Navarre Beach, pack up the truck and the cooler at like 5 a.m., ride in the back of the F-150. And I'd bring buddies with me sometimes. And we just go to the beach all the time, and we'd surf fish. And then um, I don't know, I guess from growing up outside, I would get into different things. So I started skimboarding, and then and I'd put on a snorkel and get shells. And the next thing I know, I'm messing around with the surfboard that my dad had got at a yard sale. And then all of that, I guess, just the fishing and going to the beach all the time, that all kind of grew. Where next thing I know, I think when I was like 12 or 13 is when I got obsessed with surfing. And I was like, oh my God, I want to surf. And then I was dragging a lawnmower going door to door to buy my first surfboard. My parents were like, well, if you want a surfboard, go earn it. So,
Right.
and then here we are. I don't know how many surfboards later.
I bet quite a few surfboards later. Have you ever built your own surfboards?
No, haven't done that. I know some friends that have tried to get into it. That's a whole art form in itself,
Yeah.
and super cool.
Yeah, it is. Navarre Beach, I have fond memories of Navarre Beach because I'm probably a little bit older than you, but they filmed one of the Jaws movies at the
Yes.
Holiday Inn in Navarre Beach. right? And it was an indoor, they had an indoor pool in there. And like, there's a couple of scenes where they would have this indoor Holiday Inn there. And I don't know if that Holiday Inn's still there or not, but for whatever reason, I think my dad was in the insurance business. He probably had some kind of insurance convention where we went down there. And I thought
Hmm.
that place was the coolest place I had ever been in my life. It was like this indoor pool, and then there was like a little restaurant in there, and then it was like where you filmed Jaws, and or well that where they filmed Jaws. And I don't know why I thought that was so cool. There's this beautiful beach out front, but I loved that inside of that Holiday Inn. It was just so cool. They had like this. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. They had like this little restaurant in there. It was called the Yellow Submarine, and everything was
Oh,
yellow in
cool.
there. And you could, yeah, I don't know, you could probably get fried. Everything in there was fried probably, but it was such a cool thing. We had such a good time there. But Navarre Beach, we went down there a lot of times. Beautiful beaches right there. All that whole panhandle, the beaches there are just so beautiful. A lot of changes that you've seen in your lifetime in the panhandle, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, a lot. And speaking of Navarre, Navarre is kind of like a gem because one of the things that uh, I guess that's kind of in a lot of different coastal areas throughout Florida, but also the West Coast and along the East Coast is this whole privatization of beaches. And Navarre has so much beach access. There's the national seashore between Pensacola and Navarre Beach, which is such a beautiful drive. But there's beach access all through Navarre Beach,
Hmm.
which is nice. And here in Destin, it's unfortunate. There's so many condos and homes, and the public beach access that we do have are like little slivers, and everyone's kind of stacked on each other, and it's just a wild thing, because you go to places like Hawaii where they grant public access. I mean,
Hmm.
if even if it's the Four Seasons Resort, there's like a parking spot or two parking spots allocated for the public to go to the beach. And, the condos could do that, or in some of these places, but then, you know.
It's got it's gone a different direction. I mean, I love Hawaii for that. Not only are in the beaches are like that, but they have all the mountain trails and everything
Hmm.
else, and there's trailheads everywhere. Very easy access to get into the backcountry, whatever that may look like for you. Like if it's the beach or if it's a trail or a waterfall, seemed like it was really easy in Hawaii that they realized that this is why people are coming here. Let's make
Hmm.
it accessible to everybody. Where I don't know, it seems like maybe it's gone a little bit different direction in the panhandle of this is why people are buying here. So
Hmm.
let's make it private for those for those people, I guess,
Well,
instead of for the public.
the other thing too is like the beach. When you think about the beach and how it brings people together, no one's judging each other out there. People talk to each other. It doesn't matter where you're from, your job, whatever. When people are on the beach, they hang out and they have a good time. So this whole like lines in the sand doesn't make sense on the beach because
Right.
that's like the beach is like the love. It's where people hang out, listen to music, everyone's in the water, and it's just one of those places where there's no sort of, I guess, division, and everyone's just having a good time and there for the same reason and enjoying the same thing. So
Yeah.
that's the way it should be.
Well, that's the way it should be. Maybe we'll get back there somehow in that area. But beautiful beaches, though, I'll tell you that. So tell me about the first kind of um, the first time that you saw this type of art, Gyotaku art, and how you experimented with it yourself the first time you ever tried it.
So in art classes, growing up, we'd have like art history, and so we'd study different art forms and different artists, and so that's where I knew about the art form originally. And then when I first bought my place in 2013, I needed some artwork, and there was this guy that I would see at the local festival, art or seafood festival here. This older artist named Fred Fisher, and I think he's originally from maybe the Central Florida Gulf side.
Hmm.
Um, but I'd got like a reproduction print of him or of his, which was like a tarpon, and he gave me a deal on it. I guess it had like a blemish or something like that on it, and then I knew of the art form um, and had got a piece from him, and then basically what happened is, I started painting and printing fish, and just got obsessed with it. And as a kid, when I was growing up, one of the things I would do on the weekends or Saturday mornings is I would watch like Nat Geo, Discovery Channel, when Discovery Channel was nothing but nature,
Hmm.
Jacques Cousteau films and all that. And I just was a nerd with nature. I was always outside. Growing up, I would ride my bike across Highway 98 to the Sound and go walk up and down the docks when no one would care. And was just obsessed with fishing. And so it's always been a love with fish, the oceans, and so the art form kind of brought all that together, and it was just like all the loves, the art love, the sea love, and brought it all together, and it's just like, wow, this is awesome, this is great.
I mean, you could have just drawn all those things, right, with a pencil and paper, or you could have painted them, but this is a different style. Tell us about what this, I mean, some people might not be familiar with what it is, but describe the process.
hmm So the art form originally derives from Japan. And so the Japanese would record their catches in the early 1800s is the time frame in which it came about. But they would record their catches using rice paper and then a black ink called sumi ink. So in the art form, I experimented with that. Um, and I've experimented with a lot of different things, different mediums and different materials and stuff like that. So uh, I'm non-traditionally art form using acrylics and color, and then using different weights of canvas and linen. And so uh, basically, say you go and catch a 50-pound mahi. I come down to the dock and then I prepare the fish and then apply paint and actually paint the fish itself and then lay down the canvas and then do a very in-depth, meticulous rub of the fish, which is capturing the size of the fish, the details, the imperfections. And then unlike the traditional art form, I use color. So sometimes I do fish like blue snappers when I posted recently. Um, that's not natural to the fish's color, but then also I'll paint and capture the natural characteristics and color of that fish
Mm-hmm.
and add in even the spots and details, which um, doing that in a uncontrolled environment like the docks where the
Yeah.
wind is blowing, the sun, there's different variables such as the temperature of the fish, the humidity, all that affects the consistency of the medium and then therefore the outcome of the details in the print. So it's very technical and it's not something you can get good at right away because there's so many different fish. There's so many different conditions. Unless you're always painting and printing fish inside in the AC, which is not going to happen unless
Yeah.
you're doing small fish all the time.
Yeah.
um, there's been a lot of innovation and paying close attention to what I'm doing and remembering everything I'm doing because there's so many different um, environmental situations,
Yeah.
as I'd say.
I mean, for
Yeah.
one thing, if the fish has been on ice all the way back to the dock or all day long,
hmm
the fish is going to be very cold, wet. That would seem to make a big difference in the way that the ink sticks to it or doesn't stick to it, or I don't know. Like what are the prime conditions for you to be able to get a good print on a fish?
Prime conditions would be the fish freshly caught, um, and then shade, no wind. Um, Humidity's fine because humidity kind of helps. Um, and then, yeah, just having the fish basically fresh, um, and having the shade, that's kind of ideal. But then also sometimes it depends on the species of fish because certain species like tunas, for example, when they come in out of the say, they've been in the cooler or on ice for 5 6 hours or something, maybe longer, and they hit the dock. Um, Sometimes the temperature of the fish, it being cold, keeps the paint or the medium from sticking to the fish. So if you have a fish that's actually too warm from the water temperature, or that's just the water or a warm temperature, the medium can kind of adhere to the scales maybe too soon or not in a desirable way where you have to work fast so that you're pulling off all the details. Where if the fish is sweating just a little bit, it allows a little barrier with the moisture and from the sweating of the fish and the change of the temperature of the fish and in the actual air temperature. And so therefore the medium comes off completely and you're getting maximum detail pull from. So that's a very technical thing that happens and that I've noticed and come aware from painting lots of fish.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've done some really big things. What's the
Yeah.
biggest that you've been able to do?
So biggest fish I've got my hands on was in 2023, and that was the grander that was caught out in the Gulf of Mexico off of Orange Beach, or the guys were out of Orange Beach. And that fish weighed 1,145 pounds. And sorry guys, I can't remember the boat name. But a good friend of mine, that's an artist, Craig Brumfield. We're buddies and talk art and stuff, and have helped each other with, if someone needs some canvas, or if he gets called to come over here to paint a fish, or if I go over there, we'll, support each other. But yeah, he'd reached out to me. He's like, "Hey man, I got called to paint that fish. You got some extra canvas?" I was like, "Yeah." So I drove out there and brought some canvas to help him out. And then while I was there, I was like, "Hey man, I want to get a little head print." He's like, "Yeah, have at it." So I did a head print of that fish. I didn't have the time to do the full body, and but that was a big fish.
Man,
It was massive.
1,000-pound marlin. So
Yeah.
are you able to do that with just one piece of canvas, or do you have multiple pieces to stitch them together? Like, what does that look like? Something
So I order rolls where I can paint anything. So
Okay.
if a whale washes up, I can print it.
You can print a whale?
I could, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, I could print one.
At what point would a washed up whale be too stinky for you to print?
Oof. So I've definitely encountered some very smelly things. I've printed things after red tide, like fish that have washed up after red tide.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've definitely smelt the foulest of the foul.
A washed up
just
whale has got to be one of the. That's where you're going to get your name, Gnarly Harley. You're going to be in there printing a washed up whale with tiger sharks have been biting off the blubber, and it's basically rotting in the sun. That would be putrid.
it's one of those things, I guess, having a strong stomach, but even then, they're like that marlin, the grander, when they opened up its stomach to see what it had eaten. Whew, that was in the top 3.
Rough.
It didn't smell good.
What was in its stomach? Do you remember?
I think there was like a baby, like a little swordfish in there, and then everything else was kind of like decayed. But it didn't have too much in its belly, from what I remember.
I mean, 1,000-pound marlin, that is right up there with apex. I mean, it definitely has predators, but it can eat about anything it wants to.
Oh yeah.
How big was the mouth on that thing?
Oof. I mean it definitely could eat a good sized tuna.
Like
I mean,
a 60-pound tuna, probably.
it could probably engulf it.
That's
I
amazing.
mean, it was massive.
It's incredible fish. What about the bill? Like, when you catch any kind of big fish, like even we were just talking about permit the other day. I was in Fort Myers. We were talking about this. The guide had caught a length record permit, and he was showing me the picture, and he goes, "You'll notice that I can't get my hand around the base of the tail, right?" So you catch all these different fish, and we were talking about, like, that is one of the prime indicators of a massively huge permit, is like, you can look at it and whatever, but if you can't get your hand around the base of that tail, that is a real fish. When you grab a tarpon and like the jaw structure is just different, you're grabbing this thing and you're like, wow, that is this is a different caliber fish. This is a different, like, this is a full adult compared to one that you can easily get, your hands are not together, they're like apart like this. And I would imagine that billfish, 1,000-pounder, when you look at the bill on that or get your hands around that bill, that would be one of the indicators there of just, I mean, what would 1,000 pound bill? I've never had a chance to be around a fish like that. Not even looking at it on a scale. I've never seen 1,000 pounder. Maybe like a mount, in Bass Pro
Hmm.
Shop or something. But like that's a real fish. I mean, that bill had to be massive.
Yeah, there's features I've noticed with fish, like with the pelagics, like giant wahoos, and also seeing that marlin, that grander, where their features are certain things that get more bold and almost kind of a drastic sort of um, just the features are a lot more different and just I'm trying to think of how to describe it, but
Well, sometimes it's the
just
jaw.
kind of.
Sometimes it's like sometimes it's the head shape of like
Hmm.
a really big fish. Like will take on, like if you take a redfish for example, it'll get, when they get really big, the head just is massive on that thing
Right.
compared to one that's not that big, right? I mean, they just start carrying their weight differently, and
Hmm.
the structure of the fish changes. I know what you're talking about, but from an artist
Yeah.
point of view, when you're printing these fish, like, do you still like to draw fish or paint fish?
Yeah, so I've done some freehand stuff, like sailfish, kind of breaching the water, and then also I did a scaled a redfish for a friend. He had caught his personal best redfish that was I think 44 inches.
Mm.
So that wasn't a print, but I was able to get the measurements and scale it down or scale it to size. So yeah, I can create, fish from scratch, but I
Yeah,
don't
I
do
just
it that
wonder how it
often.
would change. I would just wonder how it would change, like when you're getting these prints and you're seeing these micro details and they're perfect. Like it's not a photograph. It's like you I don't know if there would be some sort of a, I mean, it's like it's in your hand
Hmm.
almost, right? Well, it was once in your hand, and then you're getting this perfect print of this fish. Has that changed the way that you draw fish, or that you, like, I don't know, like, sometimes people paint fish and something's just not right. You look at it and you're like, just not right. But I would think that after you've had all these opportunities to print all of these different fish, that things would be getting, you know, you'd be putting them together. When they get to this size, then these, like what you were talking about, these features start to grow, and then it looks really natural. But I just wonder if that's changed for you after printing all the fish, if you draw fish differently.
So I have I guess like a pretty, I guess what I describe as like a Jedi memory. So like I remember a lot of stuff. Like I remember like all the different fish I've painted and printed, and I have noticed like the difference in fish species and the size and the characteristics and how all that stuff changes. Um, and for example, like wahoos, the bigger they get, the shorter the dorsal gets.
Mm,
It doesn't stand as tall. So yes, I've have paid a lot of attention to fish anatomy and their characteristics and what's anatomically correct. Because for what I'm doing is I'm painting the real fish, and so my end goal not only is it uh, getting a perfect print of that fish, but then when I go back into detail the work and bring it back to life, knowing every little tiny detail, it's the little stuff that makes something big in a
mhm.
painting. And I do see that a lot with, and I and I guess it's just being meticulous and just a hyper realism with fish art. And and I'm all about other artists and however they want to create and paint fish and all that stuff. Um, but do I do see a lot of anatomically incorrect um, fish out there because with a lot of like the fins are like fingers where there's a similar design and structure with fins, um, and that's kind of across the board with a lot of fish. But there's definitely changes in fish and the size. Um, Also, I've noticed, I guess, from painting and printing fish, I've noticed a lot of different things, like not seeing as many big fish or certain species that aren't being as caught as much.
Hmm.
Um, so there's been a lot of different experiences and things I've taken note of in the 10 years time I've been doing this,
Wow. What about
which is
travel?
interesting.
You've been able to go to some other places to print fish. I think I saw
Yeah.
the Maldives, right? Was that specifically to print fish, or do you just find yourself over there and you're going to print what you find?
So most of the fish I've painted internationally has all been around surfing.
Oh yeah.
So a friend of mine was hired to produce some content. My friend Shane Reynolds, he does like filming and producing. Was hired by this surf charter to produce some content for them for the surf charter. And there was some slots open on the boat, and was like, "Hey, you want to go?" I was like, "Yeah." So we went on that trip, and we would do handline fishing at the end of the day on the back of the boat. Um, and we were pulling up like small giant trevallies,
Hmm.
this yellow and blue grouper, which is one of the most beautiful grouper species I've ever seen. It has like irregular white splotches or spots on it, and like chartreuse uh, yellow fins, like the pectoral, pelvic, the dorsal, and it's kind of like purple blue color to it. It's
So
just
where
incredible
was
looking
this
fish.
that you were?
That was in the Indian Ocean in the Maldives.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just in the Seychelles, and I think we caught that same fish that you're talking about. We actually ate it.
Oh
It was
wow.
very good. It was a grouper
Hmm.
species. I'll send you this video afterwards. I haven't posted it on my Instagram yet, but it was just like that. It had yellow fins. It was kind of purplish, and I could think about like they told me what all these fish were called. It's so cool when you go to other places and you know the fish are similar to what we have back home, but they're not the same, and they have different names and stuff like that. But this one, I mean, this was not a fish I thought we were going to eat. It was beautiful. Like it was such an incredibly beautiful fish, but we ate it, and it was also incredibly good on the plate. But there were tons of them. I mean, like I'm going to try to remember what this one was while we're talking here. But that
Awesome.
when you go there to and you're hand lining those fish and you're
Hmm.
preparing for this, what do you take with you? Like, what do you take? I mean, sometimes you can't take like a ton of canvas, I would imagine. So what do you
Yeah,
take to prepare to print something?
I had anticipated um, sort of, maybe printing some kind of the main fish that I knew that was there in those waters was the dogtooth tuna, which
Yeah.
I did get to print a small one, but when we were handline fishing, that was kind of my goals. Like, man, I hope we can get a hold of a big dogtooth tuna because not only is that a fish that I've seen with like uh, the free divers, spear fishing, and it's just a super gnarly fish. Um, but just that's something that we don't have around here. And so that was kind of the bucket list fish to get. Um, and I didn't really know I was thinking that we're probably just going to be bottom fishing mostly. So I didn't bring like a big roll to print like billfish or
Mhm.
anything like that.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I anticipated. But we did do some trolling behind the dinghy of the boat, like on the ledge drop offs, which was kind of that was a little wild because my buddy, we're sitting there, we got gloves on, and we got some big, lures that were trolling behind the dinghy. And I'm looking at him like, man, I don't know if you realize, because he's not an avid fisherman. I was like, I don't think you realize, but something giant could come up any second now and literally like we might lose hands, we might lose fingers. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, we're fishing on the ledge drop off, and it's probably a few thousand feet off of these little ledges. And so when we're sitting there holding our line, I was just like, oh,
I
this
mean,
is
you could have.
exciting, but also like, what could happen?
When we were in the Seychelles recently, it was all fly fishing, and one of the things that they like to do is this what they call bomby bashing, and you go and there are these coral heads, and you just throw a fly on these coral heads and just strip it across these coral heads, and all these fish come up and eat it. I'm assuming that this was like the fishing was in the Keys when, 200 years ago, if you were to go to some coral heads and just throw a fly in there with no chum,
Hmm.
nothing, just throw a fly in there. There are these fish that they have over there. I'm sure you encountered them, the bohar snapper. They look kind of like a they look kind of like a cubera, big teeth,
Hmm.
they're kind of a reddish snapper. Those we caught a lot of those. These African mottled grouper, which were like these huge groupers, man. They would just come up and eat a fly on the surface. Like
Wow.
nothing, no chum, nothing. And so when you're saying like anything could come up here, yeah, anything could come up there for sure. For a lure too. Like, I mean, man, those fish they've never seen anything or not
Yeah.
very many things. And you can just go there and throw a fly and have just the craziest stuff. All these Napoleon wrasse, like all those different snappers, the different grouper species, all kinds of wild fish, GTs, like
Yeah.
all of that stuff there, the different kinds of trevallies, and they could just come up. I mean, even just a big GT where you were trolling right there could probably rip off a finger. I mean, those things were no joke. A big one, like a 60-pounder,
Oh
that's
yeah.
no joke. Have you printed one of those? Like a big
N-
GT?
Not a big GT. On that trip, I caught my first wahoo handlining, so it was around 45 pounds.
A Wahoo
Um,
hand lining. What was that like?
yeah, that was fun. It was great. And
You've
I
never done that back here?
no, I've never done any handline fishing here.
Why would you?
Um,
Like we have rods and reels. I can't
exa-
imagine. I mean, you're hand lining one of the fastest fish in the ocean. Like that seems. How was that? Like having
what
never done it before, no experience hand lining, and you catch a wahoo. What's that like?
so what I liked about it is you could feel the fish. So there was some give when it was pulling and shaking. And I mean, we had pretty strong line and everything. So being able to feel the fish was kind of nice because it you could keep the line tight on it the whole time and keep that tension.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I remember I didn't know what we had at first, other than I had a fish on, and it wasn't. I feel like the fight maybe would have been the fight handlining isn't as dramatic as it would be with like a rod and a reel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or maybe that was just like all the excitement and just the stoke at the time. But
Yeah.
but when we got it up, I was like, oh my God, and seeing it all lit up and everything. And my buddy was on the boat and we filmed it and all that. And when we go back to the boat and printed it right afterwards and got to eat it. And then after that, we went surfing. So it was like kind of like one of the best days of my life because I was like, wow, I just did this and now I'm gonna go surf perfect waves in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere.
That's how the surfing was.
Oh, it's man, the most beautiful water, the visibility. I'd be on a wave, like in a shallow part of the inside of the reef going down the line, and then I'd see a couple of bluefin trevallies swimming out. And I'm like, oh my God, there's bluefin trevally right there. And we don't have those around here. So but
Yeah, I know.
that
That's
was wild.
fish too. That one has an incredible skin on it. Like I've never seen really an inshore fish that has color like that. And the only way I could describe it is like a mahi that actually lights up and changes colors, and it's got the same kind of deal on that bluefin trevally. The other trevallies didn't seem to do that, but that bluefin, it had like the blue stripe on it, and then it had all these dots and everything. And then when you would be holding it, it would just change colors like a mahi. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Like those were I like those fish. They're really cool.
Because you kind of have like it's almost like a greenish um, tint to like the dorsal part of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And just it's wild just the different color palettes or color schemes in nature, with that, and then the electric blue, and then like you said with the spots and everything, and it's I don't know, there's no better design and creations than what nature has.
I
So
know.
yeah.
What's the ultimate fish to print?
Oh wow. I think like so kind of I've painted and printed a lot of fish. Like I've done the giant mar or did the head print of the marlin. I'd love to get an opportunity someday to do a full body of a grander. That would be just giant fish just get me excited because one of the things I think about when I see fish like that, I'm like, man, where has this thing been? How long it's lived? And it's just the whole idea of the life itself in which you're honoring and respecting and basically creating a story or tell to that fish. Um, but gosh, probably I like things that are rare, that's unique and different. I painted a 300-pound Warsaw grouper,
Mm,
and that was cool
yeah.
because that fish got aged, and the age of it was estimated 58 to 61 years old.
Wow.
And you just think about like how long that thing was sitting on the bottom of the Gulf and what it's seen, the storms it's gone through, what it's eaten. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, stuff like that excites me. So fish that I think that have a lifespan, that are unique and big, that gets me excited. But I think the bucket list fish, one that I haven't done, that is that giant dogtooth tuna.
Mm.
And
We
I
did.
always remember,
We were trolling right away. We did catch the dogtooth tuna, which I was really excited about because, like you, I had seen those in print and on videos and stuff like that. I'd never seen one in person. I was really, they're not really a tuna, really. I mean, they're kind of, I think they're something else, like more like maybe a mackerel. Um,
it's like a hybrid, kind of like a hybrid
yeah.
tuna mackerel.
Well, they call them a tuna, but I don't really think that. I seem to remember that somebody had told me that they weren't a tuna, but I mean that was the first one I had ever saw, and it looked slightly different, but
Hmm.
mouthful of teeth. I mean, mouthful of teeth.
Oh yeah.
Seriously. What about the shape of fish? Like, is there a fish that you can't print, like a blowfish or something like?
Oof.
Could you do that?
So a blowfish with like the spines and stuff, yeah, that's obviously a
That'd be
major
tough.
challenge in getting I guess getting the full detail of that. So probably what would have, I mean, getting it actually like puffed up and all that. Well, that's probably one of the, I don't know.
Seems like in the
That's a hard
Japanese
one.
culture, they would have done that by now if they could, if it was possible. I mean, because
So
blowfish, I mean, they eat that, right? Right? Like that's
mhm.
common sushi is like blowfish and puffer fish and things like that. Um, so they're obviously encountering them. They have been for a long time. It seems like they would print them if it was possible to do.
The thing, so with printing fish, and I've seen some other artists do it where they'll remove things, and I feel like that's the main challenge of of Gyotaku, is to actually print the fish in its natural form without
Mm.
altering, changing anything.
Yeah, I notice a
Um,
lot of yours have the mouth open,
mhm.
like like that one that's behind you right now. The that's a what is that? That's a
Big yellow edge grouper sets close
yellow
to
group.
40 pound, close to 40 pounds,
Yeah,
um, which was detailed in black and white.
that's cool.
And
So the mouth open. What do you do with like rigor mortis and stuff like that? As somebody's calling you to come down and print one of these fish.
mhm.
It's been sitting in the box. Maybe it's in a strange position. Do you try to reposition it or you just go with what you got?
Oh yeah, I've had to, because going back to with the mouth open, I love having the mouth open just because one of the anatomically with the fish is the gills. And
Hmm.
the gills there's expression to that with the mouth being open, but also as of like a fish study, I feel like having the gills exposed and flared out um, is also part of like the composition, and also is just you're documenting more anatomy of that fish. It's exposing more anatomy of the fish, whereas if the mouth is closed, then the gills are usually tucked underneath and under the gill plate, and you don't see that. So um, to me, I like that being out, or that or arrangement, or how the fish being displayed in that manner,
Hmm.
uh, so that is uh, I guess printed, or um, and how's that a whole expression? But um, going back, I guess, hmm, I think with like I guess I don't yeah I think with like with fish, there's a lot of different like there's different things you can do with the expression with them. And I think like with like the mouth and the gills and all that stuff, that's um, I don't know. That's I think it's just the thing I like.
Yeah.
I
Well, I mean, you get
was
there,
going
you
in circles here a little bit. So
think, well, we'll just go with it like it is. I
yeah.
mean, if it looks cool, I think it looks like it's in a predatory kind of position a lot of times with the mouth open, like it's about to eat something, or it is eating something, or it just ate something. Um, Let me ask you about like you started out with T-shirts and stuff. Do you do any of that kind of stuff anymore, or straight up just commissions?
So right now, mostly just commissions, and I've been working to get like merchandise launched. I've been doing some hand painted hats, which is a
Hmm.
Mako. Um, and I've had some samples made with the Mako Shark on T-shirts. And there was a merch company I was going to line up with to have all that stuff produced, and that's all kind of just been put on the back burner, which was end of last year. I had just a lot going on with the art show um, and a bunch of different deadlines and stuff going on. So uh, that is coming. That's something I definitely want to put out there. And I think I don't know. I love wearing um, artwork itself because I have some other friends that are artists and just as if like if something's like hand painted, everyone loves something that's unique and different. And so creating, I guess, merchandise with my artwork, I want to do stuff that's different
Hmm.
because I've seen so many shirts that have a blue marlin or a mahi, and it's been done over and over and over. Just as like the fish with the gills flared,
Hmm.
it's like doing something different in a different position or display, different composition. Um, and that's what I love to do with the artwork. Also, too, with like the value point. Um, if there's somebody say that maybe can't afford an original or something like that, I think as an artist, I've always want anyone that enjoys and appreciates what I do to be able to have something that I've created or done, whether that's spending, I don't know, say 30 or 40 bucks on a nice t-shirt, or if they get a reproduction, or if they do want an original.
Hmm.
Allows me to live my dream, but it's also um, yeah, it's just I think anyone that loves what you do, especially with creating an art, I want someone to have something and not be unobtainable. Where some artists, their value
Right.
point gets so high that no, their friends can't even get anything because it's like, oh,
Right.
I can't afford that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. On the one hand, it's nice that your stuff is that valuable, but on the other hand, no, only a few people can enjoy it.
mhm.
Um, who's an artist that you particularly like or respect?
Man, there's several artists. So one of my best friends, his name's Justin Lyons. So he does kind of contemporary expressionist work. He's one of my favorites, just because of the message behind his artwork. Um, it his work inspires thought, and there's a message to it, uh, and also too his work is inspired by what's going on in life, and also just knowing him and being around his inspiration. Um, I've just always been his biggest fan, and it's kind of cool because before I started the whole art journey, I would go hang out with him when he first started his art journey, and I just appreciated being around his work and being in the art environment and just seeing what he was doing and just hanging out. And then so when started getting ready to do my first little art show, which was at the Destin Seafood Festival in 2016, um, I asked him to help me frame, and I literally had, I think, a few hours left before I needed to be fully set up. And I was like, "Hey, man, can you help me do some framing?" He's like, "Yeah." So I run over to his house. He's like, "Get over here and start staining wood." And then we're getting up, my final piece is like finished up, and he'd asked me, he's like, "Hey, man, have you thought about how you're going to sign your work?" And I was like, "Well, I've started my company, or the art uh, company, as Gnarly Fish Prints, from the nickname from surfing, Gnarly, and friends call me Gnarly Harley, whatever." And so I think that just sticks, and just something I feel that is authentic to me and what I'm doing. And he's like, "Okay." So what's so weird, and I'm going to show you this hat. And it's kind of funny how things, I feel like in life, sometimes there's no coincidences and what I call like synchronicities.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, there's this hat that he'd signed in his art studio back in like 2009, and he wrote with a paint pen Gnar. And so later on, I think maybe it was a couple years after that, I was in my closet and I found, had my hat or had this hat in the closet, and I saw it, and I go back and I go, "Hey, Justin, isn't it weird that you wrote Gnar on my hat, several years ago, and here I am signing my work as Gnarly now." And just, the weird little, I guess, coincidence to that. But yeah, he's one of my favorite artists. And then, I guess as of like famous artists, Dolly's always been, one that I love just from his imagination and, the mix of like, with like surrealism, with combining hyperrealism to whatever, he had in his mind. And then also James D. Audubon, who's also painted birds. And that was one of my favorite artists growing up. And then trying to think of some other artists that I love. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of very talented people. Um, and I think with like artists, what I'm drawn to is I love, because like just as like music where you feel it, like art speaks to people. And I think it's that authenticity, and someone's just painting for the love of it and are just obsessed. And um, I don't know, that I just, yeah, that gets me fired up when I see artwork, other people's artwork. But trying to think of some other artists that I love. But yeah, Justin's one of my favorites. And there's also another local artist here named Justin Gaffrey. Um, and he's been doing thick, heavy body acrylics. He's a favorite. And then as of in the Gyotaku world, I guess give some love to other artists in the art form. I think Dwight Huang, I think as in the traditional art form, he's one of my favorites. He's just so perfectionist and meticulous in a traditional way. Um, and I love everything that's about his work and the essence to it, and his spirit with connecting to the art form, and what he does. Um, and then also trying to think of another one, um, that's one of my favorites. I'd say, yeah, Craig, Craig Brumfield. I like him a lot. I've got to know him as a person, but he's very diversified, because he also, not only does he print fish, but he also hand paints and does a lot of other things. He does a lot of scrimshaw with the swordfish bills.
Mm.
And he's got a lot of talent, and I guess, yeah, pretty diversified as an artist, and I like that. Um, I
Do you
think
want
that's
to be
cool.
do you want to be more diversified, or are you happy with your current direction? Like where do you see yourself in maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years?
So I think with artwork and creating the innovation, like you're never going to be in the same place. Like you're always going to be adapting and changing and evolving. And I think that's just how we are as humans. And so in the art field, I feel like that's a constant, is to change. Um, and something that I've done throughout my art career, which I think is allowed me to evolve and also expand my abilities, and also my eye as an artist, is when I've had opportunities with, say, someone comes to me and says, "Hey, can you do a portrait, or can you paint a mural?" Whether that's like in a loose fashion or hyperrealism or abstract, I've always jumped at every opportunity, for the love to create, but to learn and to apply myself and expand myself, and to stay challenged. Because I remember when I was doing a mural, which I did a giant lionfish on the convention center here on Okaloosa Island. Um, my mother was like, "Are you sure you can do this? And this isn't, jumping. Maybe you're jumping a little too high too soon." I was like, "No, it's like I'm here to challenge myself, to grow. I want to do big things and paint giant stuff." And yeah, I was like, "I'm going to do it." And it's one of those things like where you look back at when you take on challenges or jump at opportunities, then all of those things um, just kind of shape your trajectory, and also other things come about. And it's yeah, I guess that's just kind of been my um, mindset or approach to things, is like to always be challenging, evolving, and growing. But as with the art form and where I see myself in the next 3 to 5 years or so, I see myself um, continue to grow and expand with fish, um, with the level of detail work, and just as my eye keeps growing and evolving, um, I'm excited to see where that's at. Um, and looking back to from when I first started painting fish and detailing fish to where it's gone, sometimes it's kind of wild, and I kind of scratch my head like, wow, it's been it's been such a cool journey of what I've learned, and how it's evolved, and to kind of see like just what dedication and discipline and committing yourself to something, and also passion, love, where it'll take you without expectations, but just I guess seizing a day and seizing a moment and just going for it. But where I see my work, where I want to go, and some work that I want to be doing, which I'm working on now, is basically combining the inspiration with surrealism and some of the abstract work that I do with the Gyotaku. So there's the love of the fish, but then also what I have to say as an artist, and in creating pieces that um, not only are dramatic, that hit people in the chest and make people stand back, but also there's symbolism, and it evokes thought, and it'll work that captures people, and that also um, will have I guess what's the word, have endless subjectiveness, where people will always look at it and be like, wait, where did this come from? Where is this idea, or where this inspiration come from? So that's kind of where I see myself going with that, and then still, of course, doing the fish studies and all the print. But um, yeah, just bringing those two different loves in the art that I'm currently doing, and combining them to where it's the stories also, because most of the fish that I paint, the stories about the fishermen, and so where I want to be creating my own story, where it's the fish is expressing something, and there's symbolism, and there's some abstract stuff in there, and just a mix of things.
Yeah,
So
cool. And then let's say you've been down this road for 10 years, right?
mhm.
So if you were to give a young artist, whether that's a writer, a photographer, a painter, somebody in any form of art, if you were to give them a little piece of advice, what might you pass on?
Don't worry about the money. Um, go. A lot of people don't chase their dreams because they're worried about money, and they're worried about being comfortable. Be uncomfortable. And what I've learned and what I've experienced in my art journey is be unapologetically yourself, stay authentic to who you are, know your values, and stick to that. Um, and because all of those things kind of are your path. And when you know your path, then you can stay on that path of that's unique to yourself and to you, and it's nobody else. And when you do something with love and with passion, with zero expectation, then miraculous things happen. You meet friends that you never knew, opportunities come in shapes and forms that you never dreamed of. And it's just like, I guess, God rewards you for being you and sticking to who you are, and then works in miraculous ways to bring about a dream life, which I think is forever, which I would hope everyone pursues that with themselves, is pursuing the deep core of truth, and that's ingrained in everyone. And I think with art, that's the most important thing, is just do whatever it is you love and that excites you, and lean into it, and don't care what anyone else is doing. Don't pay attention to them. Focus on yourself. And then also with art, remember that it's not a competition, that art is about your unique expression and people appreciating and enjoying you for who you are, and doing that for others as well. Because really it's all about love. And so that's kind of, I guess, been the slogan I've always said is spread love. I'm spreading love with a brush. And I think that's what, in any creative, whether it's a musician, writing, whatever, just do whatever fires you up, and do it as much as you can, and be around people that support you, and also to keep a lot of your creative things to yourself. And then once you've created them, then let the world see it. Keep your dreams and all that stuff private. And then once you've done it, then it's for everyone. Then it's to be shared, because there's an intimacy, and I think it's special to keep all that within yourself. And then once it's all actually done, then put it out there, and just trust however it goes and however it comes. That's what I'd have to say, or encourage someone.
That's pretty good advice. I'll tell you what, that's good advice. Not only if you're an aspiring artist, but I mean that same advice could be for an aspiring fishing guide, or an aspiring, I don't know, so many different things, of just like, stay true to who you are and do it like you're going to do it for the rest of your life. Pour your whole, that's what I tell my kids. I'm like, look, man, just want you to find something that you love and pour your entire self into it.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, everything's going to work out just fine.
Absolutely. So true.
And that's what you've been able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely been moments, and I've had times where I've gone from being, comfortable making money to where I was like, man, if my car breaks down, oh, but it's the faith and the surrendering to knowing that it's all going to be fine. There's nothing to fear. And then actually the struggles and the things that build your character, and also your determination, and that, or what you persevere through, though, those things, you look back and you appreciate them. You're grateful for them, because they, whether it's the highest moment in life or the lowest, there's gratitude to be found in every single one of those, because in some shape or form, they're showing you and teaching you, and you're learning and you're expanding and you're growing, and it's all valuable.
All valuable. The highs, the lows, all of it. I agree. Harley, it's been awesome to connect with you. If other people want to connect with you and see your work, buy your work, what would somebody do to have a commission anyway? Like, how does that work with you?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to me for commissions, which you can email me at Gnarly Fish Prints, that's GNARLY Fish Prints @gmail.com. Also on Instagram, Gnarly, GNARLY, Gnarly Harley, and on Facebook, Gnarly Fish Prints. But you can reach out to me. I've got fish I've printed, everything from like marlins to small reef fish, that is open to be commissioned. Also, too, if someone's going on a trip, I'll travel to go, say, if you're going marlin fishing in Cabo or something, or even Hawaii, I'll travel for trips. Or if you catch something, and say you're in Destin, Florida, and you come here to come fishing, you just give me a shout, and I go down to meet you, and then paint and print the fish right then and there. So there's multiple ways to get my work, whether if it's you catch something, or if you've caught something, maybe I have something that's the same size, or maybe a fish that's close enough to it that you might have caught before. But yeah, just reach out to me, and if anyone's interested in commissioning anything, and we'll get you dialed in to whatever it is that you love, or you like me to create, or like for me to create.
Right on. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Go check out your Instagram too, that Gnarly Harley at Instagram, or at Gnarly Harley on Instagram. Great account, man. I really like it.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
All right, man. It's great connecting with you.
You as well.
When I get down to Destin or Navarre, I'll give you a call.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Come by the studio, hang out, and
I'd love to. Yeah, we'll make that happen. I
honor.
get around there every now and then.
Awesome, great.
All right, cool, Harley. I appreciate it, man. And
Thank you, Tom.
this has been a great interview with Harley, and we'll have another one just like this with another cool guy, somehow associated with the fishing world, whether that is art or fishing or tournaments, or maybe it's even physical education, so that we can all be better at what we are trying to do. That's next week, so make sure you tune in next week, and we will see you then. See ya.